only a couple of these are going to change compared to what you had done previously. All right, that's good, because I would say afterwards, yeah,
That was a nice event on Saturday, Sunday.
It was.
Now, is he? He's the honorary consul of New Jersey. Like,
Here, the thing is, the regime put him in because the family's connected. It's like it's like you know what it is? It's like a honorary ambassador.
making George Mike Corey the honorary ambassador for Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
I was happy to do it because
I mean, it was nice.
we did it for the community as a whole. He didn't have to be there. I mean, we should, we did it 2 years ago with the Lebanese Heritage Festival,
Yeah.
which sort of makes more sense.
Well,
Oh. Okay. Yeah, because he said that. Yeah, he said that.
I mean, get why he's here, but he wasn't really political.
No, but he mentioned that.
Yeah,
He did mention it,
he did.
that we're going to be able to vote in Easton. We're going to have a polling place here
But the worst part, like,
for Lebanon.
it's so corrupt. The whole thing's corrupt.
I know.
Put it into a Tupperware.
I remember talking to Tony before he passed away.
It's just not.
His daughter and his son-in-law was just telling him. His son-in-law's in the army over there.
Yes.
Let's call the stated session of City Council order. Please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge of the flag. As we pray for the lighting of the peace candle this week and the presentation by our Native American friend Delwyn tonight, let us bow our heads for a Native American prayer for peace. Let us know peace, for as long as the moon shall rise, for as long as the rivers shall flow, for as long as the sun shall shine, for as long as the grass shall grow, let us know peace. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
Amen.
to the flag
Pledge
of the United
allegiance
States
to the
of
flag
America,
of the United
to
States
the
of
republic
America,
for which it
to the
stands,
republic for
one
which
nation,
it stands,
under God,
One nation,
indivisible, with liberty and
under
justice
God,
for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Volcano?
Here,
Mayor Panto?
Here. Approval of the agenda?
Move.
Second.
second,
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
aye,
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Action on the minutes of our November 10th meeting.
Move the minutes.
Moved by O'Connell, second by Ruggles. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
aye,
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
At this time of the meeting, in honor of Native American Month here in the United States, you know, our history will tell us that our city has a very, we're deep in heritage of our Native Americans. As a matter of fact, our school district has Shawnee Elementary School named after the Shawnee Indians and Paxinosa Elementary School named after Chief Paxinosa. And I taught at Shawnee Intermediate School, so I'm well aware of the Shawnees, and of course the Lenni Lenapes that lived here and some of the other members of the Six Nations. We have with us, yesterday we did we were supposed to do at least the dedication of the Red Sand Project down on the Carl Cerner Arch Trail. And one of the gentlemen that was there was Delwyn Fiddler, and he's the co-founder and executive director of Positive Tree of Life. And he's here just to give us a brief but quick Native American presentation, and look real good, Delwyn.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll turn it over to Delwyn.
Thank you guys for allowing me to do this. It's an honor to do this and introduce myself. I come in a good way to share all my knowledge and everything. I got privileged to perform for all the presidents since '92, and travel around embassies and stuff like that. And now I'm just dedicated on trying to engage with the general public to bring that coexistence together and be peace, and bring that together as one family. So this short song, I want to adopt all of you guys into my circle, into my family. I'm going to sing one verse of it, and then I'm going to do the 4 directions, then I'm going to play a short flute song. And then in the future, if you got any questions, feel free to contact us, send me an email, and because we got some more things planned for the next coming year. So you can all rise, so this is an honor of you. welcome me to come as family as one. I'm going to play a flute song in honor of you, my brothers and sisters. So I'm currently working on a couple of films right now. Psychedelia, my personal one that talks about my life, and also things I've been doing all my life for the people. And the history that we have with Easton, we signed treaties, and also that bond that we have as family. So I would like to continue that piece, and from this point forward, my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you, Delwyn.
Thank you, Dylan.
He talked about the treaty, the most famous treaty, the Treaty of 1757, where the governor of Pennsylvania, governor of New Jersey, came here to our center square and helped to quell the violence that was taking place in the Blue Mountain region. And a lot of our people in Northampton County were being violently tortured. And we came to an agreement, and this little village of maybe 85, 90 people at that time had over 800 people, most of which were Native Americans, come to this town. And it was not long after the walking purchase where the white man really ripped off the Native Americans by the idea of the walking purchase was the Native Americans had agreed that the area that a white man can walk in a day would be given to them as their area, and instead we had relay runners and took a lot more of their hunting grounds than we thought. But the area that the Native Americans called the Chinnawanik down at the forks of the Delaware, as I was telling Delwyn yesterday at the dedication of the Red Sand Project, I really do want to put a Lenni Lenape or some type of a Native American Six Nations sculpture down there. The Lenni Lenape tribe that are still in the area have recommended one that was just way too expensive. It was over $1 million today. Would be probably about $1.5 million. But something to pay homage to the history of this area and what the Native Americans gave to us. And as I said, we do have two schools, Shawnee and Paxinosa. Chief Paxinosa was a good friend of mine. Some people may say they think I'm that old, but Chief Paxinosa was well known in this area as being a very honorable person, and did a lot to help the settlers who came in. So thank you, Delwyn. We appreciate you sharing on this Native American month, and look forward to seeing you back at the Red Sand Project again. Okay, at this point in the meeting, we're at public comment on agenda items only. Anyone like to speak on the agenda items? Come forward. 10 minutes, 5 minutes rather. Okay, move on to the consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Okay, under the consent agenda, we have a certificate of appropriateness for 106 South 3rd Street, 128 North 3rd Street, 41 North 3rd Street, 15 South Bank Street, 124 North 2nd, 54 Center Square. We also have an agreement with Blabbermouth Communications, and we have an agreement with George Coyne Chemical Company.
Move the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Sandy Volcano and seconded by David O'Connell. Discussion on the consent agenda? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan? Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
And Mayor Pianto?
Aye. At this time, I'll receive the report of the Fire Department for October 2021, and we move into written reports of committee. Finance Committee, Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. We did meet today for our final budget hearing, and tonight on the agenda, under new business, we'll be introducing Bill number 44, approving the 2022 city budget, and Bill 45, setting the tax rate for 2022. That is my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mrs. Volcano, Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I have no report, but like to wish everyone a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and don't eat too much turkey.
Thank you, and I'm glad your test came out good today. Remind me not to eat lettuce.
Oh, yes, well.
Planning and Codes Committee. Yeah, thank you. Planning and Codes Committee, David, Mr. O'Connell.
I have no report, Mayor.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Ruggles.
I have no report, but I just want to point out that tomorrow night there is going to be one heck of a fire out at the high school. I went out today and threw some of the wood, some wood on it, but it paled in comparison to what is out there. I bet you it's at least 30 feet tall. It is one heck of a pile of wood.
Thank
Usually
you.
burns down pretty fast, though.
Public Works Committee, Councilman Eddinger.
I have no report tonight, Mayor.
Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan.
I have no report, Mayor.
Report of City Solicitor, Mr. Clark.
I have no report, Mayor.
Report of the Mayor, I just want to mention our first weekend of the Winter Village was excellent, was very well attended by the public. Every hut I visited said they did very well, and that was the first week, which is usually not the best week. And Saturday we had the opening, we had some dignitaries there. Sunday we did the raising of the Lebanese flag. I want to thank Councilmember Milan for agreeing to say some words. I was well attended, and we honored a very important part of our community. And then we were down there for the ice skating rink and the Winter Village. So I want to thank all the city public works employees for getting everything done in 5 days. I mean, it was, we have this unwritten policy here that we don't cover up the soldiers and sailors monument until after Veterans Day. And on Friday, of course, it was raining and windy, so we couldn't put the candle up. And so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, they got the candle, the rink, the huts, the traffic pattern, everything done. So I want to thank the Public Works AFSCME employees. I want to thank the Fraternal Order of Police who were also there, and the firefighters who were there. I think it was a good showing of public service, and I think people recognize that the city employees are behind the efforts that we have to revitalize our city. Also, just want to say thank you to the Iron Workers Local 11 who put up our candle and take it down every year since our guys don't climb anymore. And this is the 70th anniversary.
70th?
70th birthday. 70th anniversary of the candle. It was put up right after I was born in November and 1951. So that's how I remember the year. And this year we're doing a history of the candle. And if you're there on Saturday night, the lighting is at 6:30. At 5 o'clock, Friday evening, I don't even know what time it is, I forget. I will be taking the kids with the Big Easy Easton Big Easy brass band down to the we'll march from down at the circle down to the first Christmas tree down at the it's at 6 o'clock down at Scott Park. We sing some Christmas carols and it's a very good time. Santa Claus usually shows up too. Also, Thanksgiving Day, as Mrs. Volcano said, I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, but I want to remind everybody that the game is a tradition. It's hopefully without any problems like we had 2 years ago. It's a wonderful tradition between Easton and Phillipsburg, and there's a lot of good fun to be had that doesn't have to come with vandalism. I want to thank them. Also on Saturday night, at the Peace Candle Lighting, I'll be giving out the Renshaw Award, which is named for Gretchen Renshaw, who was my executive assistant when she passed away during my first terms. So, with that, I'll go on to the report of the city administrator, Mr. Campos.
Mayor, just a couple of items here. Well, number one, for council's approval is the contract between the city and also the Fraternal Order of Police. It's an updated contract that includes, among some of the obvious things in terms of pay rate increases, two items that I want to just elaborate a little bit further on. The first item has to deal with, and I'm going to summarize this, the concept of comp time, if you will, hours that are worked in excess of the federal law. requirements for emergency services. So in that case, instead of paying a police officer's time and a half, we give them comp time, if you will. Again, I'm summarizing this so you can understand it. In this particular case, we have a group that's 8 hours and a group that's 12 hours. And the accumulation of time is not necessarily equitable, and there's always time that's, at least from a practical standpoint, you could work a little bit more if you wanted to. And that little bit more of time equals anywhere between 500 and 1,000 hours a year. In this contract, we negotiated that we'll give that option, which we didn't necessarily have to, back to the union or to the police officers, but with the caveat that amount of hours will go back into a community type of policing. We'll measure that on a quarterly basis with the administration, the chief of police, and also the FOP, and report back. And I thought that was a positive development. There's many different examples that I can give you, but ultimately it's going to be with the guidance of the chief on the type of community policing that's needed. So I thought that was a positive development. The second component, which was significant to both parties, is the ability for a police officer who goes out on disability, let's just say in their first, this is an extreme example, day on the job. In that particular case, that individual will be able to collect a full disability pension, which is 50% of your salary. In the current contract, police officers would not realize, they would realize only a very small portion of that. So it was a big risk to be a police officer without having that safety net. As you know, they're not eligible for Social Security. You would get potentially some other type of benefit, but it wouldn't be as high per se as a disability pension. The offset to that is that the police officer then now could get a full disability pension, but would be for the rest of their lives, but that for the portion that they are receiving a workman's comp benefit, they wouldn't be able to double dip. What that does is once the workman's comp benefit runs out, let's just generally speaking, it's only typically, and I'm summarizing, about 500 weeks. Once that 10 years is up, the disability pension would then kick in. In the first scenario, you wouldn't necessarily have that. You wouldn't have a disability pension. And workman's comp could be limited to the amount of time that you worked, et cetera, all these formulas. So in this particular contract, the police officer will get a payment that's equal to 50% of their salary, no matter which bucket it comes out of. They're taking care of them and their families for the rest of their lives if they cannot work or they're disabled on the job. Disabled on the job is the key definition there. So I thought that was a positive momentum. And what that does then too is that the city ultimately still has to pay, but the workman's comp benefit, the workman's comp payout is exhausted first, then the disability pension. So that inevitably would potentially help increase the fund balance. So it's going to put less pressure on the fund balance. Right now, the funding ratio, or whatever it's called, is about 59%, which is very, very low. There are some plans out there that are plus 100%, to give you an example. It means if the liability, if everyone calls in their pension, the fund does not have enough to pay for everyone that's due a pension. That might necessarily happen, but in some cases, there are municipalities in Pennsylvania where the fund is almost at zero, which is not the case for the city, but at least we're managing it. That and other things that have been done in the past. Those are two highlights. The other thing, what I do want to say in general about the police and the FOP is that this has been a challenging time for law enforcement, I think nationally, and in particular, you see that recruitment for law enforcement has been difficult, just generally speaking, nationally. I think it's a testament that we haven't had some of the recruitment pain, if you will, and I think this contract is indicative of the hard work that the department as a whole has been putting in, the dedication of the officers, and also I guess the commitment of the union to continue to work with the administration, not only hold their members accountable, but also support them in the type of contract that was negotiated for them. So here today is the current president for the Fraternal Order of Police, our local Washington Lodge. I don't know if Officer Wagner wants to say anything. He's more than welcome to come up. And if not, I don't hear him coming up. If any, do you want to come up? But anyway, I guess I said it all. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about that. Any questions?
I'd like to add that something I've been saying for the last couple of years, but wherever I go, people are congratulating me and council and administration for doing such a great job with the city. But I tell them all that unless you have a safe city, you don't have anything. No one's going to come to our city. No families are going to move here. No investors are going to invest. And it's really, I remember 2008, the number of phone calls I got every night about shootings and drug deals and violence in the neighborhoods. And knock on wood, that's been going down because of the good work of the police department. And I really tell everyone that the police department in Easton, well, I just swore in Francisco, a new police officer, and said the same to him. You're joining a very respected department. And I know that the chief just had the Criminal Justice Institute at the facility for a tour, and they were all, Marvin Boyer told me he was very impressed with what training mechanisms we have, the TI program, et cetera, and the amount of de-escalation training and racial diversity training that we do. And, the fact that we're accredited. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. So we got through it. Like I told the guys from the FOP, there was no bloodshed, but there were probably some bruises. At the end of the day, we all lived. So I think more on me than anyone else. All right. So the next thing I did want to bring to everyone's attention, in Mazen had distributed this, and I know Peter had brought this up during the budget discussion about moving into the cloud. Because we were able to forego some major legal expenses, i.e. arbitration costs that would have been mounting in the six-figure range, literally as soon as we knew the FOP contract was on the on council's agenda, Mazen immediately started calling me,
fast.
emailing me, and texting
He's
me.
learning fast.
Mazen, come on up here.
He must have gone to the Dave Hopkins
And
School of Public Spending.
And because I said, well, hold on. About a couple of weeks ago, I said, why don't we hold on some of the IT upgrades until we're sure that the FOP contract was going to go on the council's agenda. So now we're sure. All right. Council still has to pass it, of course, but we do want to talk about this very important issue. And to some extent, Peter hit the nail on the head. To summarize it is, why don't we move completely into the cloud? We can do that per se, but there's costs associated with doing that. The second thing is, because of so many changes in the industry, we need to optimize ourselves and to become more efficient the way we operate. In general, the city systems are a little slow, and they're not as optimal as we want them to be. In particular, because of since Allentown had that hacking incident, we've been put on notice with our broker about making sure that we're properly insured. And when you do that, Travelers comes in and they start to ask questions and they do an audit. And we've been going through annual questionnaires. And it started when Frank was here, and now with Mazen. And that forces you as an organization to think more critically of your systems. So part of this is what Peter said about moving into the cloud. The other part is efficiencies, and most importantly, to make sure that we're insurable. So I'm going to have Mazen talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, thank you very much, Louis. So right now we have the current servers that we have 11 standalone servers, single point of failure in the data center downstairs, and also most of the servers are like 7 years old, so they're past their warranty and support, reached end of life. In addition to that, we have employees are using a combination of thin clients, laptops, and desktops. So with some of the funds available, the idea is to actually purchase servers and also purchase an X number of computers to distribute to employees. So this way they have the flexibility. If they have to work from home, they have that functionality. So the idea is to move our servers from standalone to virtualization platform, and that's where it comes in with the Dell VxRail hyperconverged infrastructure. So we will be able to gain redundancy on the hardware and also be able to deploy applications faster, and there's a scalability for the future. So if we have to bring any in-house applications, we have the flexibility to just kind of build on top of that infrastructure and add additional service as needed. So we will build the core infrastructure for the data center that we have here. And then, on the paper I put in the cost. So the idea is to finance the servers over 3 years, the cost of the servers over 3 years, and also use some of that funds to purchase laptops and desktops. So it's more of we get like 2-for-1 type of a deal based on the funds available. And then also upgrade the end user computing environment and the server infrastructure, because we need to make that investments in the City Hall data center to be able to not have that one day where any system could go down and then we're offline completely. So
Did you, after our last meeting, we discussed this. Did you have any discussion with the police chief about doing the same thing over there?
I discussed with him last month, but he wasn't available. So I think this will be more like a moving, week to week, month to month kind of discussion. Because right now, some of his servers are not as old as the servers here in City Hall. So they're okay for now. With this servers that we are actually, if we get approval to buy, if anything applications happen with the police, we'll be able to actually migrate that over to here.
Oh, really?
Yep,
That's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
Then
So-
he has a budget for $10,000 for a new server.
Yeah, this is just like a standalone server that they're getting at the police, but eventually we'll be able to, whether in 2023 upgrade their infrastructure to be also virtualization. So this way there's no single point of failure on their environment.
So I guess from my perspective, if you can buy more, we can probably save less. No?
So I mean, you can go technically, for example, Dell and ask like, hey, we're not just buying 4, we're buying 8, and we'll see what kind of discount. But sometimes it's not.
I mean,
it's not that major discount that we won't get like
Of course.
20 or 30 grand. It could be just like a couple $1,000.
but if we're gonna drop 10,000 for a physical server, I'd rather reallocate the 10,000 to what you're doing, and have them start the migration now, so that we're all virtualized. I'm going to push for this, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can disagree with me, which is fine. I respect that, but
Yeah. It's a discussion that we can have with the chief.
I would
Yeah.
recommend you have it. Then.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, my goal at the police station to be 100% virtual as
That's
well.
fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, that's the goal. It's just a matter of when that will happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me explain. Let me add a couple things. Number one, this is all CoStar purchases. So technically, we did not have to come to council. In talking to the mayor, we wanted to bring this to council's attention because of the budget implications. Obviously,
But it's this year's budget, not next.
it's this year's budget. Now, for next year's budget, buried in Mazen's budget, there were some assumptions made for maintenance and also potential replacements of servers. That's why you could finance this over 3 years. We could start now, and then 40,000 next year, et cetera, the following year.
Exactly.
And that's why even now, with an estimated budget of about $100,000 for new laptops and equipment and hardware that's needed. By the way, this is not a 100% net new cost. We're going to have to replace those servers. Like I said, he had some assumptions built into his budget for replacements of servers. Total replacement costs right now would probably be about $80,000 to $90,000
Exactly.
if I heard you correctly, not including the maintenance time, because these servers are old. What we're doing right now is patching these servers together to continue to operate them. But there's no sugarcoating it. We're going to have to replace them, and they start next year, and they start then the year afterwards. So what I think the solution that you bring is positive. The other thing is that with regards to the fiber, the private fiber network, Mazen and I talked about this. We're not going to turn on the switch January 1. We'll probably turn on the switch sometime mid second quarter. That allows us some wiggle room to pay for this upgrade that we need to do here in the city. In another simple example, is we've upgraded the Microsoft suite of products, and with that, we also have Teams. We're not able to use Teams right now. We're using Zoom. There's a cost for Zoom. So to give you an example, that displaces Zoom potentially completely, unless we still use it for council meetings. This will allow us to use Teams. I mean, we have not, just because of our infrastructure going through a thin client, we haven't been able to use Teams as a whole. Some of us do, like myself and the mayor, who operate under a Surface, but that's a more expensive computer. We've been purchasing less expensive computers, but then when you purchase something that's not as good, you got to replace it more frequently, and we've actually been seeing that. But anyway, anything else you want to add, or any questions that they may have?
No, this is just the first step of upgrading the infrastructure, for the city, and it's going to be just a gradual upgrade. It just can't be done all at once. I mean, obviously, if I can get the funds, I'll do it all at once, but let's do it year by year.
And if you had any concerns, you can definitely bring them up.
On the purchase of the 50 computers, is that a one-time, or is that going to be a budget item we're going to see annually?
No, that would be just a one time. We'll buy the laptops or desktops with 4 years warranty on them. So
My question is it better to phase this like over a 3-year period, where we buy a third of them, and a third of them, so that they
don't
kind of
all come up at once.
rotate out, but
Yeah.
also it distributes the purchasing over that 3-year period. It becomes a budget item instead of a one-time, boom, here's 100,000, and maybe 3-4 years from now, boom, here's another 100,000, just hitting you.
The only budget, I think that's a good question. That's Mazen should answer that. We have probably about $130,000-140,000 that's coming out of that legal line item, and that's the budget that Mazen has to work with. He suggested that we buy the computers and then pay over a 3-year period the cost of the server virtualization. And you're asking to switch it, which I don't think is a bad idea. It's either or. It's Mazen, you can answer, because I don't think we talked about this. Not everyone's getting a laptop.
Right.
Because some folks have to come in regardless. So I don't know. You answer it.
yeah, I mean,
your
it's
thing.
Yeah, $2,000 a piece, everybody could get a
Well, no. So this is. It could be, we could only spend 80, or it could be spend 90. So this
I know,
is just the
but I'm
worst case.
just doing the math on the 100,000.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so the idea is that we're buying computers that will last for the next 4 years, because that's where the warranty is. So if anything happens, now going back to your question about let's do, 20 laptops now, 20 laptops next year, or desktops. I mean, obviously we can do that, but right now the infrastructure, the end users, and their equipment is already 4 or 5 years old, and they're still on Windows 7, which is no longer supported by Microsoft. So we're running into security situation. We're running into an old hardware. So now we have to be selective. Okay, do we give it to, John and not Joe, and Mike and not Steve? So it becomes a situation where who gets the upgrade first?
Right.
I understand that phase the cost, but sometimes it's a cost you have to pay now or pay later. So we could spend $20,000 right now, but next year for 20 computers we could spend 30, because the cost of the hardware, that's also increasing. So.
And Mazen, maybe you can address this. My concern on this too, because I saw this at the county, is where laptops just, once they're delivered, the warranty starts. It's like that with a vehicle, right? We have the same thing with vehicles. I just want to be confident that, I guess it's only 50 or 60 machines, so that helps out the confidence.
Yes.
But how can we make sure that we're moving quickly with a staff of 3, basically?
Well, so there's 3 of us, and we can deploy, within a month or 2, deploy those, the computers. And obviously we can actually do the purchase, order 20 now, and then next month or another 20. But then I'm not sure if the funds I'll be getting, I have to use within the end of this year, or I can carry some into, January or February, where I make additional purchases.
Well, I guess you're going to have to talk to Dell or whomever, because the funds are, they expire December 31st.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think
The idea of co-stars is, though, that whether you buy 1 or 100 is the same price, right? Pretty sure that co-stars bids it all out. They bid out 1,000 of them, and you want 20, or he wants 40. Bloomsburg wants 5.
Right. Yeah. If the funds needs to be allocated by the end of used by the end of this year, then I have to go and say, this is how many I need. I never done it in the past where they can order 20 and then, because they have to invoice us. And right now, because of the chip shortage and so forth, so the laptops might not arrive until, February or March as it is. So
The only thing, what we used to do at the county, which I wish we had this here, when I was at the county, we had Xerox, who was managing the IT department, was a 23-person department, was like a $5-6 million contract. And they could purchase and use their economies of scale through Xerox nationally. You know what? I'm talking to let's you and I regroup on this, and I can actually approach them and see if we can work with them to purchase, because they don't have Xerox anymore. They morphed into another group.
yeah, I mean, it's a discussion. As long as the funds available, there's more than one way to see how we can procure the computers. So.
All right.
Your CoStars isn't always the cheapest.
No, they're not.
I mean, we've already had local dealers, when we're buying vehicles, bid lower than the CoStar.
I mean,
But they're just happy to sell a car.
yeah,
Well,
based
no,
on my
no one's happy. Nobody's selling cars right now. Right.
I mean, based on my experience from the private sector in community cities, I actually, and looking at the pricing, I was actually able to get better pricing
Sure.
when not going through CoStar,
Mhm.
and significant pricing as well, because now you're locked into this. This is the price you're supposed to offer it for, and unfortunately, the idea you think that CoStar makes it cheaper for government, but it's not the case.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Campos?
No, that's it.
All right, there's no correspondence, no unfinished business. We'll move right on, Madam Clerk, to new business.
Okay, we're gonna have Mr. Brown introduce bill number 44, which would be providing the revenues and appropriating specific sums for the city budget during the fiscal year of 2022.
So introduced.
We also have Mr. Brown introducing bill number 45, which will set the tax rate for the fiscal year 2022.
So introduced.
We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which the city has reviewed and approved a proposal with McTish, Kunkel and Associates for design services for the Glendon Hill Humor Park Bridge.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye.
We have a resolution being introduced also by Mr. Ettinger, approving an agreement with Richard Grubb and Associates. They will be performing a cemetery, some kind of study at the Nescahoning Street Park.
So moved. Second.
They'll be looking for see if there's any bodies buried in what was originally a African-American cemetery over behind St. Joseph's Church. Well, actually, it's in front of it. And if not, if there's no one there, then we'll move forward with it. If there is, we'll do some kind of special honorarium for there. So moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
We have an agreement being introduced by Mr. Milan, approving a 4-year agreement between the City of Easton and the Fraternal Order of Police, and this contract will be retroactive to January 1, 2020, and extend till December 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I
Appreciate
have
your
one-
cooperation. I'm just
Oh, I'm
thanking
sorry.
them.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. We have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Milan, approving an amendment to the 2021 salary and wage, and that is due to the settlement of the contract with the police department.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved in second, any discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
There is time now for public comment on any subject matter to dealing with the city of Easton. Comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll move for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
So moved.
Moved in second. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Volcano.
Aye.
Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Go Rovers.
Happy Thanksgiving.